Hi there, Hillary.
Oh, hello. Look at you starting a podcast.
Well, I figured I should provide something to this organization.
Even with your minimal effort, we've kind of hit the big leagues.
We really have. We've got a big name winemaker on tonight.
We do. We do, with some really cool exclusive wine. We had a treat tonight.
Quite a treat. Some old wine.
Some delicious treats.
Very introspective wine conversation.
Absolutely.
Quite fun.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Stay tuned for Brad Grimes of Abreu.
Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic episode of 9-1 Wine.
Hi, Hillary.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's fabulous. How are you?
I'm good. How was your day?
It was pretty good. It was pretty busy.
Good.
You know, people never stop getting sick. I keep trying to make them healthy, but it doesn't always work out in my favor.
You are in quite the job security right now.
That's true. So we have a fabulous guest today. He is known probably around the world as a winemaker. He's best well known for doing Abreu wines. He joined with them in 2000, and today we are lucky enough to be at his house eating his fabulous snacks.
Nice. And thank you, Brad Grimes, for agreeing to come on the podcast. and also making some delightful snacks here.
I think this is the most
gotta have snacks.
impressive snack board we've ever had.
And one thing I learned before coming here is Hillary said you were a chef turned winemaker, so this is great.
Yeah, I mean, chef's a strong term. I cooked. Well, I defend titles. I mean, if you're a winemaker, you need to make. So if you're a chef, I mean, chef's just it's a higher level. I cooked, still cook, obviously. Cook more than I cooked way back when.
I like it.
I think some of the best meals I've had you were cooking, so I'm gonna put you at chef.
Thanks.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I don't do well at directing and or accepting help. So
There you go. How's that work as a winemaker?
I work by myself.
So it works really well.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't hire interns.
It's you.
I mean, I work by myself inside the facility of the winery. There are a couple guys that will come in and, save me from maybe some imminent injury. That happened a few years ago when David sort of tapped these two guys and said, "I don't want that guy on top of those tanks anymore." So Richard and Sonora, who are two of the sweetest guys in the company, helped me in that way. But once the fruit's in the winery door, it's mine.
Nice.
So yeah, I pump over tanks. I do all of that stuff, and I love it.
I was gonna say it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's really perfect. So tell us a little bit before we get into this amazing log of, let's see, what log are we on?
So we are doing January 2023. And then I picked the year 2000 as our throwback in honor of the year that you started with David.
Great.
Nice.
So then, January 2000, the start of the century.
January 2000. Okay.
Wow, that's a couple summers ago.
Yeah, 23.
And what are we drinking?
This is 2019 Vincent Dauvissat Chablis. There's just a flavor that I crave, and most often it's Chablis.
Nice. Beautiful.
They're unmistakable wines. This is one of the iconic producers in the world. I mean, we're not drinking crazy Chablis. This is just the AOC Chablis. Tasty wine.
It's good. Really, really nice. I love those French whites.
I feel like this is perfect for the weather we're having, where it's still a little cool, but the sun is shining. And
Agreed.
if I had to pick a wine for the weather.
Look at this, paired with some awesome... What are these beautiful creations? Caviar on top of...
That's a celery root remoulade and a parsnip chip.
Yeah, you're definitely a cook.
As Chris sits here and Googles what those things mean.
I couldn't even spell that. Remoulade.
Yeah, and some good fatted calf stuff.
Cool. It's a great spot.
I didn't eat lunch, so I'm hungry.
Well, dig in.
Perfect. So, cook turned chef. Chef turned
winemaker.
Chef turned, thank you. Cook turned winemaker. Also cook turned chef, it sounds like.
I would agree.
So I did some reading, did some stalking like I do with most of our guests, and it sounds like your wife was also doing her chef thing, and that's how you came up to the valley and met David.
Yep.
Had you done any winemaking prior to that?
No.
Okay.
No, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, particularly when I asked David. Well, I sort of asked him out to lunch, and I'd met David, several times because my wife was Stuart Sloan's private chef.
Okay.
Stuart Sloan was a client of David's, and they would hang out. I would come down when I could, just to, because Catherine was down here much more than she was up in Seattle, and anytime Stuart was hopping on his plane, I sort of squirreled in the back of the plane to come down. And David was, hanging out with Stuart quite a bit. So he would come over more often. He would just hang out in the kitchen with us, because that's, you both know David. That's who he likes just to hang out with all people, but mainly he likes to be close to where the food is. So he would sneak in the back of Stuart's house through the laundry room and come in and just pinch food out of pans and hang out with us. And then finally someone would see David and they would wrangle him into the dinner or whatever they were doing. And that's how I knew him. And so I would call him every once in a while and ask him about opportunities. And then finally I just came down, because David's a in-person type of guy, came down to have lunch, and we went to someplace I've never been back to in Calistoga. I was not sure why we drove all the way up to Calistoga to have lunch, and he kind of interviewed me, and I was really asking for a job at a winery, but I was, in my mind, that was like a tasting room, because I didn't know anything else besides that. And I figured I dropped my resume everywhere. Terra, every restaurant in the valley. I was determined to work at a restaurant and just do a tasting room, gig. And then Annie Fabia, who worked with David for a few years, she called me the next day and said, "When can you start?" And I was like, "So I guess I have a job." I had no idea what my job was. And David just plopped me in the vineyards, and that's how I started.
Wow. And then did that involve making wine that year as well? Or working?
That was the vintage that David moved from Rick Foreman's to Stewart's. And that was Stewart's first vintage, and they needed someone in that cellar, because Mark Aubert was doing a few things, and he was the winemaker for the first year up there. And so I just, did David type things. I just had a water hose and would spray things down. I would just copy whatever David was doing.
That's a good call.
David likes a water hose.
My dad too. He'll often be out in the side yard spraying down the dirt to keep everything.
Joel Gott had a great line. It's like, it's water therapy.
That's true.
Yeah, it just feels good.
Therapeutic.
Nice. Yeah. His water therapy would be in the river fishing, which is a better version of it.
This is a more expensive water therapy, considering that the city of St. Helena is charging an exorbitant amount of money.
Water rationing.
I might call the police on them. I might be in the police log next week when I get my water bill.
I'm hoping this year it's going to be better, even though I know that's a completely unrealistic expectation, but
it won't be.
A girl can dream.
Yeah. Well, on that note, what fun things do we have on the police log, Hillary?
We have lots of fun things. Speaking of water, I have an old one. This is from the 2000 we talked about. Let me just find the one I'm trying.
Well, while you're doing that, I have a good new law in St. Helena that we should advise the public of.
Okay.
Thursday, January 12th, 2:30 in the afternoon, report of an illegal gas-powered leaf blower in operation on Boydson Lane. Police contacted the property owner. Harsh words, illegal gas-powered. And then there was a second one. Here it is. Police received a leaf blower complaint on Hollis Lane. This is later that day. The city is in an educational phase and will not enforce its new prohibition on gas-powered leaf blowers until April 1st.
What time of day were these?
3 o'clock, 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I kind of have some opinions on this.
I have lots of opinions, but...
I feel like these people may need a little bit of a hobby.
Yeah.
If you have the time at 3 p.m. in the afternoon to call
Do you work?
on a leaf blower.
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe retirement happened. But
That's
I just
fine.
feel like there's other crime and other
different.
things we could focus on.
100%.
Yeah, we have a legend who lives on my street, Reuben Martin, who we call the mayor of Tainter Street. He's lived here for has to be close to 50 years. Reuben has an electric leaf blower.
Okay.
He runs it for a long time, but I'm not going to call the police on him. Like, we just know. It's great because you hear the leaf blower, and Reuben's such a great guy, and so you just sort of let it drone into the background. It's fine, and he's keeping his property clean. Do we not want properties clean?
We do.
Because that would be the other, is that if you don't have a leaf blower or do your yard, then is someone going to call the police on you when your yard looks horrible?
Absolutely, they will.
Small town problems.
They will, or they'll post on Nextdoor. That might be more of a next door battle.
Oh, I can't.
We've not delved into the next door comments, but that would be a hilarious show.
It's in 100. Well, I meant to say 1,000%, 100% at the same time, so we have a new number. 100. Yes. Yeah, it's at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. Yeah, I'd be a little upset.
You're always gone on weekends anyway, and anywhere from San Diego to Florida to Hawaii to
if hypothetically I was home
Italy.
on a Saturday, I would probably be laying awake in bed at 7 a.m. and I'd be a little perturbed if someone woke me
and
up.
apparently, isn't there a moratorium or some sort of rule on weekend yard work?
There are. You can't do it past like noon now.
oh my goodness.
I can't believe that. Like, so I work 5 to 6 days a week, and so I have. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, Sundays are verboten for any type of.
You can't do
I
anything
think
on
it's Sunday.
Sunday?
I think it's Sundays you can't even.
Well, then I have really nice neighbors because they never call cops on me.
I was going to say,
good.
I on Sunday had the leaf blower going for a good hour.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, I know it ends early because I was talking to my mom. She goes, I have 5 minutes to do the leaf blower. I was like...
But is raking legal?
24/7.
I think
like
raking
that's
is legal.
allowed.
It might be more annoying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's like
a metal rake on
chalk
concrete,
a chalkboard.
right? Yeah.
Oh, so maybe that's next to come.
Yeah, help us.
All labor is going to be illegal in St. Louis.
Oh, dear. I found my water one. A caller reports that the water in the creek is blue. An officer and CDF respond to check and report that a follow-up is needed.
Oh.
I'm just concerned what color it should be.
Water in the creek is blue.
It's blue. It's
Wow.
blue.
Okay, well, there's
Like not like a normal like
It just says
Tahoe blue.
Blue. Just says blue.
That's incredible.
Not green, not orange, blue.
That's from 2000 though.
It's from 2000 at 5 p.m. on a Wednesday.
You really have to commend the police officers in this town. Have
For
any
laughing.
of them been arrested for assaulting someone who? I'm not joking. I would be in jail. I couldn't do it. It's interesting. I mean, because I haven't read the police log in years, and so they obviously do some great work because there are emergencies and there are people who obviously should not be driving around here. But when you get a call, like my car is missing, it's been stolen, and then I forgot I parked it 2 doors down.
When I was drunk.
They just have a lot of patience. They're very, very nice people.
I wonder if that's part of the interview process.
Like how tolerant are you?
Exactly.
No,
Like
it should be.
they give you false calls and see how you deal with it.
Yeah.
Like this fun one on January 14th, Saturday, at 9:45 p.m. So, Saturday evening, man came into the lobby of the police department to ask for a preliminary alcohol screening, a breathalyzer test, to see if he was okay to drive. He'd had some wine, but needed to go somewhere.
Oh.
I kind of like that.
I mean, I bet they did it. I don't know.
It is a safe option. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's better than him getting on the road and hurting someone.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Sure, be great. Maybe this is the start of a new business. You could have
mobile breathalyzers.
Hillary's breathalyzer station.
Given to bring IV bags, so if you're a little over, we'll hydrate you really quick.
Just come in, hydrate, check everything out, send them on their way.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's no liability concerns with that whatsoever.
None whatsoever. I'll let you purchase my malpractice for that.
There's apparently a bunch of catalytic converters being stolen. This is the new crime in St. Helena.
I've heard this, yeah.
I've heard this too.
They're getting bolder.
Like coming up into driveways bolder.
Mm-hmm.
Someone drilled my friend Bob's gas tank on his truck. pulled all of his gas out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot of work for like 15 gallons of gas.
Yeah.
That's sad.
It's pretty bad.
Oh, dear.
Oh, Brad's got one.
I mean, it's all hilarious. Well, yeah, this one would be under the category of like, I'm surprised that the police officer did not like just take this person to jail for actually calling. Someone called 911 after putting a $20 bill in a change machine on Charter Oak Avenue. So it had to be the car wash, right?
Oh, yeah. I was trying to figure out where that would be.
Yep.
Yeah. And he only got 8 quarters back.
You called 911.
You called 911.
It's called 911.
So here's my theory, or my suggestion. If you call 911 for that, and then it's determined that it is ridiculous, number one, the name should be in here. It should be there should be real names.
I agree.
And
Say the name.
There is a corresponding jail time, at least 2 hours. Like you need to go to jail for 2 hours. I think it would make the police log obsolete because people would actually just deal with their problems and not call the police officer.
I say we charge them, and then the money that our city desperately needs, that is going to pay for our sidewalks.
There's that too. No one would want to see their name in the paper for reporting someone for,
No.
Yeah. We had a neighbor across the street. Great. He was a great guy. Great builder. Completely renovated that house by himself. But he was a solo guy. Very much like kept to his own. Was not social. Totally fine. My boys used to play basketball out in the street, and so one of my children likes to throw the basketball from the furthest point, on the street and or on the roof or whatever. And so the basketball ricocheted into his yard, and Thomas hopped over the fence, grabbed the ball, and then shot it from his yard and hopped back over the fence. 5 minutes later, the police are in the street. No. He called the police on a 9-year-old.
No. So he's made the police log.
He made the police log sometime in probably 2013 or 14. But Catherine asked the officer, because she was so furious, like, why did he call the police? And the police officer said, this was his words, "It's St. Helena."
Not trespassing, not...
Yeah.
At least the cops get it. It's St. Helena.
Yeah.
I think you have to.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Could you imagine working in like Oakland or Vallejo and then taking a gig out here?
Be different.
It's very different. My brother's a police officer on a remote island in the middle of Puget Sound. And you can only get there by ferry.
Wow.
And he works the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift.
God.
He's like Mensa bright, which is very interesting. Because he sits in the squad car all night and like knits and watches Netflix movies. And so I asked him the last time I saw him, I was like, so when's the last time you pulled someone over? And he said, it was a couple years ago. I had to pull someone over because they were going too slow. And so, I mean, I guess it's a good gig if you can
Yeah, if that's the pace you want.
No one's getting away from you.
If it, it inspires you in certain ways or fills you with joy in certain ways. Yeah, I hope that our police department are happy people. Yeah, maybe it's a good gig.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. They definitely pull people over all the time, though.
Well, and you have to have a sense of humor. Like you
Yes.
have to, you would have to laugh at all of this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like this one, a frightened Pine Street resident reports that someone is at her front door ringing the doorbell and banging on the screen door. She says it sounds like wrestling and fighting and wants the officers to hurry. An officer contacts the caller's neighbor who is bringing the caller's wandering dog home.
There's plenty of lost dogs. A couple of Labradoodles.
Mm-hmm.
The Labradoodles are trying to like form a pack of some sort, I think, in St. Helena. This one's confusing to me. A woman and her kids asked to talk to a firefighter about a donation. An officer tracked down a firefighter to talk to the family.
Wow. Very nice. But there's a fire department you can go to.
That's right next door.
It's really funny. Like,
Very kind.
why'd you go to the police department to talk to a firefighter?
Maybe they thought it's all city employees. Like
We're
they're
so
all
sorry, but you have to go to jail for 20 minutes.
child jail.
Perhaps they just wanted to drive home the fact that, all cops probably want to be firefighters anyway, so.
Is that true?
Every time that they do the emergency vehicle training, all the cops want to drive the fire trucks, and all the firefighters want to drive the cop cars.
Looks like the grass is greener.
Always. Of course.
That makes sense. So speaking of wine, you
Yes.
guys have some, main vineyards kind of around the valley. Do you have a favorite? Is that like picking a favorite child?
It's the most common question and the most common follow-up. No, I don't think of things in favorites. I just don't. When people would say it's like picking a favorite child, I would joke and say I have a favorite child. No, I don't. If I had a favorite, then I would obviously be doing the other vineyards a disjustice. I just don't think of things that way. So everything is created equal, and I just do the same work, and the wine is the wine. And sometimes there are, wines that are super surprising, and other times there's failure and disappointment, and I don't know why. But that's just a part of the winemaking, and you just you move on. I mean, Madrona's the closest, and I'm at Madrona every single day. Capella's probably the closest, but Madrona's the home ranch, and I'm there all the time. But the properties up in the hills are gorgeous. The Las Posadas property is just stunning. So yeah, I just operate the same. Don't have favorites. I've got a big record collection out at the winery, and people always flip through and say, "What's your favorite album?" I'm like, it's impossible to answer.
Okay.
Really.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a great winemaking and records. That's great.
Yeah.
Do you throw them on while you're in the cellar?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. At harvest time, not so much. I mean, if I did hire an intern, I would put a chair next to the record player, and they would
Only
just
job is to switch.
clean records and flip records. That would be their job.
I bet you'd get
I'm
someone
sure
to do
you
that.
would get someone that would just be so excited to come soak in all the knowledge.
Probably.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
the chance, because that's it's an exclusive place. Like you don't do many tastings up there at all. Maybe a couple here and there.
There are people who will come by.
Yeah.
I want people to see it, particularly at harvest. I really encourage people to come at harvest, because I think it's important for them to actually see the process.
Right. And that's excuse me for my ignorance on this, but it's up in Egwin, right?
The winery? No, it's in Yonville.
Oh, Yountville. Why did I think that? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Where in Yountville?
Yeah, we're sort of in a hideout. We're in the old S. Anderson cave.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Great.
a cool spot. It's a really cool spot. And it's really, it's nice to be separate. It's nice to be away from the properties in a
Unless
sense.
you get pulled into different activities or works or
sure.
people.
There's a lot of things that happen at all these properties, but it really it allows me to focus and concentrate, and it's really quiet down there. I don't have a lot of people just kind of randomly coming in.
Yeah.
I did the first day of the 2017 fires. The power was out down there. I was actually in a pretty decent place with all the fermentations. Everything was pretty much done, and I had a tank that was 2 tanks, I think, that were soaking, and 1 tank that had just started fermentation, and so I needed to pump it over, but we had no power. I mean, it was just a blackout down there. And so I'd strung up a bunch of flashlights, and I just started hand bucketing this tank because I needed air. I needed to get it moving, and I heard this kind of the door open and close, and then I walked and looked, and it was pitch black in the place. And this woman was like, "Hello," and I said, "Hello." It's like, "Is this Abreu?" And I said, "Yes." And she's like, "Well, is it Rico Abreu?" And I said, "Well, I'm not Rico." And she's like, "Well, we're just real big fans of Rico's, and we were wondering if we could buy a bottle of wine." And there's fire across the street. We're in the middle of a natural disaster, and I said, "I'm so sorry. You need to go.
can't do this.
You should not be anywhere in the Napa Valley right now. If you can just look across the street, there's propane tanks exploding and there's a fire. I really appreciate the fact that you love Rico so much, but yes, we should talk another time.
That is fantastic. I will say Rico's fans will stop at nothing.
Well, and that's like the biggest compliment to him. That shows like what a stand-up guy he is.
Yeah.
No, Rico is...
He's fantastic.
He's fantastic. I was never a race fan. I don't know, I was never around it, never my sport, but then... watching Rico grow up in the sport, and then some of the people who have he's been around, like Kyle Larson, they're both Kyle and Rico are just the nicest, most professional people in their sport. And I don't have all of the subscriptions and things to all the sites and to watch all the races, but when Rico wins, we usually get something in our info at. And then I'll go and try to find it. And what I really want to watch, beyond him just racing, is the interview, because I think that he's a very empathetic, very kind person, and is always congratulating other people other than himself. He's very humble. Yeah,
it's great. Now he's engaged, Megan. Exciting. Very cool. So yeah, happy for Rico.
Yeah,
definitely.
That'll be a party in February.
It's gonna be
that'll be the party of the...
Do you want me to write the police log for that month?
I mean, not saying we were at a birthday party, and not saying we read the logs that had to do with that party, and we never admitted to being at said party.
But we remember it.
But we remember it well.
Yeah, that's great.
Man. Yeah, they're always fun.
Nice. So tell me more about making the wine. You have... Every wine you make is a single vineyard designate of the vineyard.
Yep.
Right? And I don't know, what's the style? I mean, how do you determine how you're going to make the wine every year? Is it based off what you see in the vineyard, or is it kind of your palate?
Just let harvest come to you. I don't... style is a common comment or question, and I don't know what style is. Like, when people say, I love the style of wine that you make, like, I don't know what style that is. It's just, I just make. So it's like style of food, or, I just make wine like David showed me how to make wine, which is you walk the vineyard, you look at the fruit, and combine different fruit together, and that's how the wine gets made. So, David really never talked about that back when he was doing it, but he would always pick Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, these things, and just ferment them together. Because we're making a wine from the property, not a single varietal wine.
Nice.
That's how it's made on all the properties. Nice. I just walk constantly and rely heavily on Enrique, who's at Madrona, Lalo, who's up on Howell Mountain, who they've over time have just recognized that it's not only like taste, but it's also visual. You can see when a vine is ready to be picked, and you can also taste it.
So learning, it was kind of all just from instruction and then instinct, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I was very fortunate to be around a lot of people when I started, because the Abreu Vineyard management side of the company was connected to everybody. So within the first few months of working for David, I had met Helen Turley and Heidi Barrett and Celia Macheski and Tony Soder and Marco Bear, all these people, and I didn't know anything. So then when it got into harvest, it was just, you're just matching. You match what you see. You match the energy, which I think is a really good piece of advice that my friend Maggie Harris up in Oregon always talks about. It's just, a winery can be fun, and it can also be serious. And so, when we're being serious, please be serious. Don't make jokes. Because it is, there are points in time where it's just focus and seriousness, and there are other points in time where it's so much fun.
Yeah, read the room and find out what you're in.
And the culture within the company is so solid that everyone who works there has an understanding of their role and an appreciation of the work, and really a respect for the work, and that's That's what I love. I have been gifted this for the past 20 plus years, and I'm spoiled. I'm already an only child, so I'm a complete asshole. To have a winery to myself and to have that relationship with not only the vineyards but then the guys, and it's a big family. It's great.
So who would you point to as kind of the number one person you learned the most about winemaking, all the specifics from? Would it be David or?
Yeah, David, because and it's not necessarily the wine making part of it, or I don't have an enological relationship with wine. It's all work based. David doesn't know science either, so I think we connected in that way. He respected, that I just like to work, and so I just learned the work from him, and it was just also tasting wines. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be drinking Chablis if it wasn't for David, because he showed me so many wines in the first year that I worked for him, wines that I would never get to drink otherwise. And then in turn, I get to do that now with the next generation that is in this valley, and being open. During COVID, I had these illegal lunches, and I invited,
good thing that didn't make the police log.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't held necessarily in St. Helena, but invited a bunch of people around a table just to get together and to talk and to just change the conversation a bit, because we all kind of get in our echo chambers and talk the same, talk about the same things, and so when you get younger people and older people together, like, it was so great having a table with like Bart Arajo and Don Weaver, and then younger assistant winemakers who no one knows who they are, but they should know these people. Yep. These are legends in the valley, and that's what David always gifted me. Was it didn't matter if I knew some of the people that I was going out to lunch with. I remember going to lunch with Reg Oliver at Pinot Blanc, and I had no idea who this guy was, and I had no idea why the hell I was going to lunch. Like, why am I invited? But so you get to a point where, and I'm kind of there, where you start to kind of crest the hill, and you're like, I certainly want to give back and make sure that people taste wines and drink wines and know what wine is. And these old Bordeaux that David was pouring for me 20 years ago, no one gets to drink those wines anymore. I mean, it's really cool, and it's very generous, at some of those parties. And David's really generous about pouring wines for people. And I could make the case that the wines are way over some people's heads, but at the same time, it's like, it's so great to taste those wines. Because it just doesn't happen much anymore.
He's got such a great gig going where he's managing all these really famous high power vineyards, and then is able to have some wine from this place, and then be able to kind of compare and contrast that with what you guys do. So what came first? The vineyard management came first, and then the winery, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, and it's again, just the foundation is work. It's a daily basis, and just thinking about. I know David talks about just getting better every day, and thinking about how you can do things more efficiently, or with the wine, it's so dialed because of the people who are in the vineyard, everyone who's worked for David for so long. There are guys that have worked for David for now more than 40 years. I mean, we just had the first kind of head foreman retire last year. And he'd worked for David since the late 1970s. Wow.
So that says a lot about, employee satisfaction.
Yeah.
You're not planning on going anywhere?
No, why would I? See? I mean, because I get to do exactly what I want to do.
It's a dream job.
Kind of, yeah. It really has become that, because I don't know if I could exist in a traditional winery. I couldn't be a laptop winemaker. I'm not a good consultant. I have a hard time telling people what to do, because I want to do it. I want to do all those things, it was also because that's what David taught me. Like cleaning drains and washing tanks and all the
Everything.
water.
I can imagine
Stain.
everything is quite meticulous. So
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Would you? And then, so obviously, I would say you're most comfortable in the winery doing the work. But what about having to get on the road and do dinners and sell wine? Is that part of the fun too? Or
Yeah, I mean, I mean, sell is a strong term. I just go support the brand. I love it when people actually see the wines and can appreciate the wines. And it's important for people to see the wines. Like, I'll be in Chicago and pouring wines for people who've never had the wines before. But these are the people who are on the floor of a restaurant who might have heard of the wine before, but they're not, no one's just popping corks for them. And again, that goes back to David always opening wine. The very first time I ever rode around with David in his truck, he took me to the barn at Madrona and he gave me 2 bottles of 95 Madrona and a bottle of Kistler Chardonnay and something else. I went home to Seattle. I was like just full. I was just like, I was so happy. I didn't even really know what the wines were. But then you taste the wine and you really feel it. And that's when people actually can feel the wine and see the wine. That's a huge win.
and it's hard to get too. You don't just
That's
pick
what I
up
was
an
just
Abreu.
gonna say, like, it is such, I would say, exclusive, and I think, like, sitting here talking to you, it's all those different aspects of it. One, there's not a huge quantity of it. 2, it's the taste of it, and it's just, it's special,
Yeah.
and I think that's what adds to the exclusivity.
Is it all
of
allocated, or just how do you?
Yeah, it's mostly DTC. We
Yep.
have distribution as well. But I really want people, it doesn't matter really who it is, if, because we talked about it earlier. It's like, I'm a yes person for the most part.
So we got you on here.
I want people to see the wines. I think it's important. And just like I want people to see something like Dauvissat, I want people to see Cedric Bouchard Champagne, and just these really iconic personal wines, because they're really, really important. It's gonna, if people are into wine, it's gonna further their wine life. If all they get to do is drink subpar wines or this, I would call the police on these people. People who just drink their own wine. It's house palate.
Yeah.
House palate wineries are really easy to detect. If you don't drink other things, your wine becomes pretty.
How is that? Just stuck in a rut, or?
Yeah, just there's no life, So, yeah, it's really it's encouraging to see more and more winemakers drinking great wines, and more wine lists around this valley being much more broad. David would get chastised way back when he would throw these parties. Some of his old cronies would chastise him for having like French wines at his parties and not having all American wines. It's just like not patriotic. I have no idea.
Well, they've been doing it longer.
But it was more of this competition thing of like, what's wrong with Napa wines? There's not necessarily something wrong with it, but it was that he was educating the palate and just seeing other things, being inspired by other things, not trying to go copy something, but just being inspired by wine and just making wine. It's one of the greatest things to do in the world, I think.
Love it.
Well,
speaking of that,
want red wine?
we have some decanted Abreu here.
It is always very cool. I feel like when I'm like, I remember sitting at a very nice restaurant in Charleston and looking at the wine list, and it gets a little more pricey, a little more exclusive, and at the bottom it's Abreu, and like it just brings me home to like a plastic cup, like at a ranch in my Blendstones, like probably just got off a 4-wheeler, but it's such a special thing to me.
Yeah.
Which is the weirdest thing to say ever, but that's like the moment it brings me to, which is one of like the most wonderful times I've had.
Well, I think that's what wine is. Really, it's so experiential too, and you don't just. That's why you have to travel and share it with people, and people come here to see it and have tastings with you because they remember the experience, they like the people, and it reminds them of something they did that was fun. And otherwise, it would be hard for me to have a different standout wine if I didn't have any connection to it. All right, so talk to us about
what are we
drinking.
finishing up with?
2000 Madrona Ranch.
Wow. This is the first year that you were here.
Oh, this is perfect.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it's 23 years old.
Wow.
it's really something I talk about to people, because once you get into this business, and I mean, I'm sure you know it too, it's like the years just start to loop pretty quickly. The very first vintage, 2000, I remember the first pick was at Staglin, and so since I was working with a new management company, I went to Staglin to go do something, really basic, like strip leaves off so the guys could pick the Chardonnay faster. And Jimmy Abreu, David's brother, who was hauling fruit that day, came up and just said, "We were just doing this last week." And I didn't understand what he meant by that, but now I totally understand it. Because when harvest starts, you're just like, it feels like we were just doing this. Like the years, it's a tighter circle. And so it's hard to think about this as a 23-year-old wine. Now, if I go back in time, and in 2000, if someone had poured me a 1977 wine, I would have lost it. Like, 1977, that's so old. But 2000 feels like five
really
years.
Does it feel that long ago?
No way. Wow, that's scary. Well, it does not. I mean, it's got all the right things in all the right places, but it doesn't seem 23 years old. That's beautiful.
In the
it's got a lot of
best
fruit.
way.
And,
Something
that's nice.
Aged wine is something that David really showed me early on, drinking all the old Bordeaux's. I mean, first gross from 59 and 61. And so I always had this appreciation. And then started, when we were making wine, and particularly back in the early 2000s, there was a shift. I mean, quite clearly. I'm probably starting in the 90s, and David was, very fortunate to be around all these great people like Bob Levy and Helen Turley and Tony Soder, and people who were making really iconic wines at that time. But I think also coming from the 70s and 80s, these people were forward thinking, and they weren't doing the things maybe that were technically sound. And there was probably some failure, but you have to see failure and experience failure to get better. So the wines, I think, that came out of the 90s and then came into the 2000s, there were different schools of thought. There were people that were saying this is wrong, this doesn't look right, feel right. And being in the cellar with David in those first few years, it was really clear that we just felt like what we were doing was right. And because it was really no different than how the early winemakers in the 70s were making wine. It was kind of cowboy winemaking. And it's still what we do today. It is not technical in any sort of way. It is the most basic way that you can make wine. And I've always said, there's no way this is wrong. If this is wrong, the sky's red. Like, it just doesn't, it wouldn't make sense that this is wrong. So it's cool to go back now and to see these wines, and for the wines to be 15, 20 plus years old. And we just had a lunch yesterday for a charity and poured 93, 03, and 13. It was cool to see that progression.
Nice. Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, it just got such great structure and fruit and everything's still there. And
someone's been brushing up on their wine knowledge.
My bad.
Or vocab, excuse me.
Everything is still there. That's fantastic.
Well, I have one last log to close us out. As we get
fire. Where are we going? Turn that off.
I'm ready. A business owner said a semi-aggressive man from out of town keeps coming to her business every Friday asking for the same postcard, which is out of stock.
Well,
so someone is driving into town really after this postcard, semi-aggressive. Let everyone use their own colorful.
And they can't just order it?
Maybe it's on back order.
I would like to know where this postcard is.
It's hiding for sure.
I mean, there are occasions like that. Not like that, but I was at Sunshine one time on a Sunday when they had no chickens.
Oh dear.
And everyone was very upset.
Well, I was just sort of in disbelief, and it was just like, how do you not have chicken? I should have called the police. Are you sure that buzz wasn't for the woman looking for police?
It's not. This was. Let's see. This is
the police department.
A fire alarm at Pine Ridge Winery. So,
I'm
not planning on going to that. It's too far.
That's not. Is that technically? It's not Rutherford.
No, it's not. It's Yountville. Past Yountville.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's way far away. 6 tags leap.
Well, yeah.
Avoiding that. I only stick to Oakville and Rutherford.
But it would be a fire alarm, not like a security alarm.
Yeah, it's just not a proper fire, just a tasting room smoke detector. So the Pine Ridge.
I set my smoke detector all the time off by my shower, so it's fine.
Oh, I'm surprised that people have not, or the fire department has not come to our house because we set off the fire alarm almost every day.
I love it.
Yes. Yeah.
So one last question about,
Yes.
so we covered the winemaking, farming. What about, have you seen a change since you've been here in farming practices and what you guys have done in the vineyards with David and Mateo back now and all that?
Yeah, I mean, there's just, I think there's just a closeness. There's, it's almost going backwards in a way where we're just, David was never a pre-merge herbicide guy. He lived in the middle of, those vineyards in Rutherford. And he would tell me stories about, him chasing down tractor drivers that were, because he could smell the product in his house. And so he was always a guy who, hoe plowed and did things at this, just basic level. And I think that's where everything is kind of going towards now.
Yeah.
David's an old school guy, so he doesn't, necessarily like the words biodynamic or organic is just something that David's always done. It's just not, that's how he farms. And so, yeah, the way that we do things is very consistent. It really has not changed that much, in at least the philosophy of it. But I think everyone is just more conscious for sure. And we're all concerned about the same things. We're all concerned about virus. We're all concerned about fire is the thing that we can't control at all. And the changing weather. But it's very consistent. When you drive by vineyards, even if you don't know a David Abreu vineyard, it's probably going to get your attention. There's just a level of aesthetic that he implies in these properties, where it could be argued that it's not qualitative. But then I would argue back, well, it's cultural. Because when the culture is that distinct and the vineyards look that way, that means there's so much pride in the work that there's a lot of energy that is going into these vineyards that I think can be attributed to the success of the fruit and then the wines. Not only the Abreu wines, but then we sell a bunch of fruit to people and the success that they have. There's just it comes back to work. It's all about the work and putting all the time and effort and energy into doing something the right way.
I think that's
that was
the
well
perfect
said.
place to just so if we wanted to try wine or come taste, or how do you recommend people go about doing that?
Well, we have a website. And we you can sign up for the wait list. We made it mandatory that you actually have to thumb something or tap something. I'm still waiting for someone to say something I probably can't say on air to me, but I can't remember what the question is, but we just I got so frustrated looking at all the waitlist signups, and it was so random, and people would be signing up at 3:00 in the morning in Des Moines, Iowa, which could have been after one of Rico's races, who knows, but it was I don't know who you are. And so people will at least give us an indication of why they're signing up, and that can start the conversation. Yeah, so maybe we'll get a big bump from the podcast.
Absolutely, the 911 bump.
2 to 3 more followers at least. Yeah. It'll be me and Hillary, her mother.
Yeah. But it is mostly word of mouth. That's how people find us. We have customers, like the customers yesterday who are part of this charity. They brought people, new people in, and they want to be a part, and they want to buy wine, and that's. We like friends of friends. I
think your money is far better spent in cultivating good relationships who will do that word of mouth than some sort of advertisement.
Than a TikTok.
Yeah. That riddle will never be solved in the office. Although David just got an iPhone, within the past year. But before that, Instagram and all Facebook and things, David he has a flip phone, and I'm not on any of that stuff. So I just don't know. There's an authenticity to what we do, and that's what resonates with our customer. Is it's transparent, it's authentic, it's real. That's why I beg people to come on Harvest. Just see, this is real. See the work. Come eat some tacos. I'll pour you some champagne. Have a little bit of red wine, and you get to see the entire process. And it isn't some veiled sort of secret thing. It is really basic and cool. And 99.9% of the people who come lose their minds. And it's what I encourage other wineries desperately to have people on staff who work and who know the process, because they can speak so intelligently about what they do. And the people who come to the property, they don't want a recorded message. They want a real experience with people.
Yeah. Jump in the truck with Mateo and go see some vineyards.
Exactly. Because that's what, before there was any of this, when David would see people, which is pretty rare, he would meet them at a vineyard, put them in his old Silverado bench seat truck.
I remember that truck well.
And drive them around, and then take them to the barn and give them a bottle of wine. And that was the Abreu tour. And if you can get in the truck with David, it's one of the best tours for sure.
It's not easy to get.
Cool.
Can't book that one online.
David's a yes guy too, so it's maybe easier than you think.
Love it.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank
you for sharing this incredible wine and snacks, and this was awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Looking forward to now that we're friends, continuing to
and Harvest 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll come up and play some records.
Sure.
I'll be your record flipper. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Yeah, medicine's overrated. I'm ready for an internship.
Cheers, everybody.
Right.
Cool.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. Yay. Well, that was a lovely episode.
I tell you, that 2000 Abreu was fantastic.
It was scrumptious.
Scrumptious, your favorite word.
Yeah. Yeah, it just has a lot of depth. Just like you like to describe the wine, with a lot of deep and depth. That's how I use my vocabulary.
Deep in depth.
But I don't have a lot of words to use, so I kind of have to use them over and over.
Well, it fits. It honestly fits. And, that was a lot of fun. Brad was fantastic. Abreu wines are hard to get.
But if you can get your hands on one, or if you ever see it on the menu at a restaurant, it is worth the splurge, for sure.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, 91wine, all spelled out the words. And
there's probably some hats for sale, I'm sure. I think we've sold a total of 3.
We're actually out right now, but we will be reordering more soon. Make sure you 5-star us on all the streaming platforms. And stay tuned for a summer full of some really cool guests coming up.
Awesome. All right. Looking forward to it.
Bye.
You enjoy your evening and be safe.